Compression. Compression or data compression is used to reduce the size of one or more files. When a file is compressed, it takes up less disk space than an uncompressed version and can be transferred to other systems more quickly. Therefore, compression is often used to save disk space and reduce the time needed to transfer files over the internet. Two primary types of data compression: file compression and media compression. File compression. File compression is used to reduce the file size of one or more files. When a file or a group of files is compressed, the resulting archive often takes up 50% to 90% less disk space than the original files. File compression. The goal is to remove redundant data in each file by replacing common patterns with similar variables. For example, words in a plain text document might get replaced with number or another type of short identifier. This identifier then references the original words that are saved in a key within a compressed file. For instance, the word computer may be replaced with the number 5, which takes up much less space than the word computer. The more times the word computer is found in the text document, the more effective the compression will be. File compression works well with text files. Binary files can also be compressed by locating repeated binary patterns, and compression algorithm can significantly reduce the size of binary files such as application and disk images. Media compression. Like file compression, the goal of media compression is to reduce file size and save disk space. However, the media compression algorithms are specific to certain types of media such as image, audio, and video files. Three types of media compression. JPEG compression, which is commonly used for digital photos, incorporate a lossy compression algorithms that average nearby colors and removes color variation that are imperceivable by the human eye. GIF compression reduces the color palette of an image to 256 colors or less, which provide an efficient way to represent each color within the image. PNG compression uses a lossless compression algorithm that filters the image data and predicts pixel colors based on others nearby pixel. While each of these algorithms work different ways, they can all be used to significantly reduce the file size of an uncompressed image. Lossy compression. Lossy file compression results in lost data and quality from original version. Lossy compression is typically associated with image files such as JPEGs, but can also be used for audio files like MP3s and AAC files. The lossiness of an image file may show up as jagged edges or pixelated areas in audio files. The lossiness may produce watery sound or reduce the dynamic range of the audio. Lossy compression removes data from the original file. The resulting file often takes up much less disk space than the original file. For example, a JPEG image may reduce an image file size by more than 80%. Little noticeable effects. Similarly, a compressed MP3 file may be 1/10 the size of the original audio file and may sound almost identical. Lossless compression. Lossless compression basically rewrites data of the original file in more efficient way. However, because no quality is lost, the resulting files are typically much larger than image and audio files compressed with lossy compression. For example, a file compressed using lossy compression may be 1/10 of the size of the original, while lossless compression.
Good day everyone. So I'm here to report about archiving. So what is archiving? Archiving is the process of combining multiple files and directories. It is also the process of combining multiple files into a single package called an archive. So this archive can then be easily distributed to another machine, backed up in a repository somewhere, or simply kept on your own machine as a way to organize and clean up your file system. And archiving also means that you take 10 files and combine them into one file with no difference in size. So if you start with 10 and 100 kilobyte files and archive them, the resulting single file is 1000 kilobyte. On the other hand, if you compress those 10 files, you might find that the resulting files range from only a few kilobytes to close to the original size of 100 kilobyte, depending upon the original type. And also, it can be thought like putting some different files into one box. So if you have 5 files, each of a size of 10 kilobyte, archiving those will give you 5 times 5 equals to 50 kilobytes. So here's the most common programs for archiving files and directories. So first is tar. So tar is a Unix command representative tape archive. So it is used to combine or store multiple files. Next is zip. So zip is a common file format that's used to compress one or more files together into a single location, and it reduces the file size and makes it easier to transport or store. So next is, what is the purpose of archiving? So it improves compliance, saves time, and increases security. Document archiving is securely storing information, both digital and paper format, that you no longer use regularly. It's important because it stops you losing data. And archiving is used to collect multiple data files together into a single file for easier portability and storage, or simply to compress files to use less storage. So here are some archive storage options. So first is tape. Tape is an effective data storage archival format because of its low cost. However, the time it takes to access data stored on tape is slower than the other storage options. For that reason, it is most often used as a long-term archival location where data is unlikely to be accessed. So next is hard disk drives. It can be used as archive storage. However, power and cooling of hard disk storage makes this option costly. Next is cloud. Cloud is a favorable archival option because it can easily scale and removes the cost of hardware, power, and cooling. However, for large data centers with continuously growing archives, like ongoing cost of cloud storage may start to add up. Some major cloud providers offer cloud archiving platforms that offer slower performances for a lower cost. So last is object. Object storage is an effective archival storage option because it has the ability to store large amounts of metadata, which is essential to easily access data. And object storage is also low cost and can store large amount of data.
Good day everyone, I am Trisha Maybe Del Puerto. So for today we will talk about the difference between archiving and compression. So the distinctions are occasionally blurred in casual conversation. There is a clear distinction between archiving and compressing information. Archiving. So archiving is when you coalesce multiple files together, but you may also compress them at the same time. Compression. So compression, we're reducing the amount of data that is stored in the particular file so that either it will move more quickly across our communication channel or take up less space in our storage media. So if you start 100 kilobytes and archive them, you'll end up with a single 1000 kilobyte files. So, if imo pong i-compress ang katong 10 ka files, ang resulting files po niya is mag-range siya a few kilobytes to close to the original size of 1000 kilobytes. And mag-depend po siya sa original file type niya. So, in fact, during sa imong compression, you may end up with a larger file. So, if ang file is na-compress na siya daan, tas imo pa siya i-compress otro, mag-add siya og additional overhead. So, resulting in a slightly larger file. So, mao ni ang archive and compression formats. Si zip, gzip, BSIT-2 and TAR. So, mao ni sila ang widely nga gina-use. But si zip is likely the most popular. But si zip and unzip are widely supported by all major and most minor operating systems. Gzip was created as an open source replacement for compressed an older Unix program. So, si BSIT-2 is a newcomer on the scene, designed to replace gzip. So, compression is na-focus siya sa zip, gzip, and BSIT-2, although zip also archives. So, the tar command does only one thing, which is archive, and has done so for a long time. It is almost entirely found on Unix-based machines. You'll definitely come across tar files, also known as tarball. So if you download source code, but almost every Linux can expect to come across. Zip archives and compresses files, making it ideal for sending multiple files as email attachment, backing up, and saving disk space.
So our topic is security. These are the key points: security environment, program threats, system and network threats, cryptography, user authentication, virus damage scenarios, and firewalling. This topic is to learn about security threats and attacks, to discuss the fundamentals of cryptography and authentication, explain the various damage scenarios. Why we need security? It is because for the protection of data and information that we have. The goal and threats of safety environment or data confidentiality. The data should be sent confidentially without exposing the third party. Next is data integrity. The data should be sent from sender to receiver without any modification of data. The threat is that the attacker may tamper the data in between the path. System availability. The receiver should readily available when the sender is sending the data. If the receiver is not available on time, then it will be denied of service. Security problem. First one is threats. Is a potential security violation. Security must consider external environment of the system and protect the system resources. Next is attacks. Attempt to breach security and can be accidental or malicious. It is easier to protect against accidental than malicious issue. As the diagram shows, intruders are the third party which disturbs the transmission of data between sender and receiver or between any close connections. There are different types of intruders. Snooping by insiders determined to make money, casual prying by non-technical users, and commercial or military espionage. Accidental data loss has three types. Hardware or software are because of CPU malfunction, disk crash, and program bugs. Next is human errors done by users manually, such as data entry and wrong tape mounted. Program threats. First is Trojan horse. Trojan horse came from a famous Greek mythology the siege of the city tribe during the War of the Greeks, trying to enter into the city, which was not possible, so they planned a trick of presenting a Trojan horse to the Greeks by hiding themselves inside that horse. Second is trapdoor. As the word says, trap, it is a method of breaching security in a system. Specific user identifier or password that circumvents normal security procedures and could be included in a compiler. Logic bomb, a piece of often malicious code that is intentionally inserted into software. Stock or buffer overflow is a situation where we write a piece of information into a memory which of a certain length, but if you want to write something or do a buffer length, then the buffer overflow occurs. Viruses, code fragment embedded into a legitimate program and very specific to CPU architecture, operating system, and applications. System and network threat. There are three types of system and network threats. First is worm. Use the spawn mechanism and standalone program. Worm is another piece of malware like viruses which is intended to cause damage but from viruses because it does not need any kind of force. A very good example of worm is internet worm. Next is port scanning, automated attempt to connect arranged ports on one range of IP addresses. File service attack mainly occurs when the receiver is readily available to receive the data when the target computer is overloaded with useful cryptography. Cryptography is to secure information. The main goal is to keep the information secure from the third party. This can be done by scrambling the data. Algorithm has two inputs, the data and key. Key is known only to authorized users, while data are data and the useful information is knowledge for people, instructions for machines, or input for yet another algorithm. User authentication. So how can a human user prove their identity to a program? And there are different ways to prove authentication. Something user has, such as password, codes, hint, something that a user have, such as fingerprints, something that the user is facial pattern. Two types of authentication. First is external authentication. Verify the user, usually username or password combination. They may require you two passwords for identification. Next is internal authentication. Verify the process and don't allow one user to appear to be that of another user. Dealing with passwords. Passwords should be memorable. Passwords are mostly used authentication technique to identify a particular user knowing the hash value and hash function. It doesn't give any clue to the original password. Authentication using biometrics. Use basic body properties to provide identity. For example, fingerprints, voice, hand size, retina patterns, iris patterns, facial features. There are some potential problems. There are also some potential problems that we should consider while using biometrics. Duplicating measurement and stealing it from the owner. Virus damage scenarios. Denial of service as long as virus runs, permanently damage hardware, target a competitor's computer, intra-corporate dirty tricks such as practical jokes and sabotage another corporate officer's files. Worms versus viruses. Worms and viruses are similar to each other but have some major difference, such as viruses requires the programs to run and attach through send mail and attach files, while worms are self-running. For example, the internet worm, bootstrap to upload worm, and worm itself, and hide its existence and then replicates itself on new machines. Firewalling is a kind of security which limits the network access between trusted and untrusted hosts and can be tunneled or spoofed. Tunneling allows disallowed protocol to travel within allowed protocol. And firewalls typically based on host name of IP address which can be spoofed. And these are the three types of firewalling: personal firewall, application proxy firewall, and system call firewall. Personal firewall is a software layer on given host. It can monitor or limit traffic to and from the host. Application proxy firewall understands application protocol and can control them, while system call firewall monitors all important system calls and apply rules to them.
Computer protection. Computer protection or security is the process of protecting your computer against unauthorized instructions. These unauthorized instructions could be anything from installation of malicious software on your computer without your consent, to hackers taking over your computer's control so that it can be used as a botnet, including every other security threat which falls between them. Once your PC security has been compromised, hackers can also take over your identity and use it to their advantage. Like for example, hackers can pose as you to carry out security attacks, can hide your actual location in case of high-profile attacks and use yours instead, and can also encrypt your computer's data or crash it altogether. Let's take a look at some of the basics of computer protection using which you can secure your computer successfully. First, install antivirus software. Not just any antivirus software, but one which can offer real-time protection. Because real-time protection is crucial if your PC is to be protected against today's security threats. Second, implement other security tools. Unfortunately, antivirus alone is not sufficient to keep security threats at bay. You need the whole package: anti-malware, firewall, and others to combat today's sophisticated malware. Third, keep your computer updated. Ensure every software within your computer is properly patched up and up to date. This includes the operating system and the other third-party software which might be a part of it, because most of the security threats exploits your system security vulnerabilities, and keeping your system up to date can eliminate such threats. Fourth, use complex passwords. Another aspect which is very important but quite often ignored are strong and unguessable password. Each password you possess, not just your system password, to various accounts you might be having pose a serious threat to your PC and your digital identity. Therefore, ensure you always implement complex passwords. Fifth, follow security best practices. Finally, don't forget to follow the security best practices like not clicking on suspicious mails, not downloading suspicious attachments, not visiting dangerous websites, etc. to keep your computer and digital identity safe. In other words, exercise caution while online. Your computer protection is something which cannot be taken lightly, especially considering the rapidly changing cybersecurity threat landscape which seems to throw up new challenges almost every day. Therefore, equip your computer with necessary security tools.
Security and protection isn't enough, because in our life, there is among us. Let us begin.
There are three things that can hack your password, and one of them are breaches. Hashing your password on the website available on the internet. It may be unconvincing, but then it is true.
Most of the breaches contain plain text password. The popular application already suffered major data breaches, and all of these breaches are already publicly available on the internet. Social engineering. This is literally giving your password to a unknown website that will give you a free service. Even you know how things works, they can still get your credentials through giving you a malware that can locate who you are. Man in the middle. This is a hacker would likely to be a third party of your life, which the person would get your information
For going to the specific website.
These applications can get your information, but then the hackers too.
They may seem friendly, but then they are already your surveillance camera.